We spend so much of our early lives on this conveyor belt,
Oh, absolutely. Preschool, grade school, the whole thing.
right? And then high school, maybe college, and boom, you're thrust into the workforce.
Hmm.
And education is almost always framed as a means to an end. It's just a tool you use to get somewhere else.
To get the job, yeah.
Exactly. But reading through our sources for today, I found this single sentence that just completely stops that conveyor belt in its tracks. It says, quote, "After college, after kids, after career, there's lifelong learning at OLI."
I love that line.
Yeah,
It completely reorients how we are supposed to think about the fundamental purpose of education.
Yeah.
It removes the transactional nature of learning and replaces it with something much more enduring.
it really does. So for today's deep dive, our mission is to unpack a truly fascinating model of adult education that actually puts that philosophy into practice.
Hmm.
We are looking under the hood of the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, or OOELI, specifically the organization at Yavapai College.
Which is a super interesting setup.
It is. And for you listening, we are drawing today's insights from two very specific foundational documents. We've got OLLI's Winter 2025 revised bylaws and their November 2025 policies and procedures.
Now, I know bylaws and policy documents might sound incredibly dry on the surface.
A little bit, yeah.
Right. But when you read between the lines, these documents reveal this highly sophisticated blueprint. They outline the exact mechanics of how a community of adults can build a thriving, self-governing educational utopia.
Without it completely collapsing under its own weight.
Exactly, without it turning into total chaos.
Okay, let's unpack this, because before we get into the nuts and bolts of, how they run their committees or handle their finances, we have to talk about the core operational philosophy of this organization.
The peer-directed model.
Right. The whole thing is built on this concept they call peer-directed learning. And I want to be sure we understand exactly what that means in this context.
Well, what's fascinating here is the structural dynamic. So OLI operates under the Yavapai College Lifelong Learning Division.
Okay.
And it physically spans multiple locations in Arizona, places like Prescott, Sedona, Verde Valley. But it is not a traditional top-down academic department where the college just dictates what is taught.
So the college isn't handing them a syllabus.
Not at all. Despite using the college's resources, OLI determines its own curriculum. They design their own programs and they manage their own internal affairs. The adults in the program are literally the ones running the program.
So it's essentially like an open source educational project.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, like if you think about an open source software project, you have a platform, but the users are the ones writing the code, debugging the system, creating the final product.
Right.
Here, the members are trading in knowledge and talents and life experience instead of code. The mission literally talks about sharing skills in a relaxed environment to discover latent abilities and contribute to a multi-generational society.
That open source analogy is actually highly accurate because Yavapai College provides the physical and administrative sandbox, so to speak.
Like the servers for the software.
Exactly. The college acts as a fiscal agent. They provide the office space. The director is officially a college employee. And, classrooms are provided on a space available basis.
Got it.
But the intellectual lifeblood, the actual content and the community, that is generated entirely by the dues-paying members.
The members are proposing the classes, taking the classes, and populating the committees. So the college provides the infrastructure, but the members build the experience.
Right. And because the financial structure is funded largely by those membership fees, along with grants and donations, the members have real, tangible ownership.
They've got skin in the game.
They do. They are financially and intellectually invested in the success of the institute. When you pay into a system and govern it yourself, your relationship to that system changes from, a passive consumer to an active stakeholder.
But let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Sure.
An open source peer-run community sounds idyllic in theory. But human nature is messy. You put a bunch of highly experienced, passionate adults in a room, give them ownership of their own educational universe, and surely egos are going to clash.
Oh, inevitably.
Right. So doesn't this heavy reliance on bylaws and policy documents, like the sheer bureaucracy of it all, doesn't that kill the collaborative vibe?
Actually, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the bureaucracy exists precisely to protect that collaborative vibe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in a peer-run environment, structure is the only thing that prevents the loudest voices from just completely taking over. You cannot have a functional utopia without rules to protect the minority voices and manage conflict.
Okay, that makes sense.
Look at their primary governing body, the Governing Council, or GC. The bylaws dictate it must be composed of no fewer than 7 and no more than 11 OLI members. And they explicitly favor an odd number.
Because an odd number inherently avoids tie votes on contentious issues. It prevents, like, legislative gridlock.
Precisely. They are anticipating disagreement and structuring the board to resolve it efficiently. Furthermore, these governing council members are elected by the general membership to 2-year terms, but there is a hard cap.
A term limit.
Yes. You cannot serve more than 6 consecutive years.
Ah, that prevents the oligarchy of the enthusiastic.
What?
You know, that phenomenon of local community boards where the same 5 people run everything for 20 years, and eventually the organization just reflects their personal preferences and nobody else feels welcome to contribute.
Exactly. The term limit forces leadership turnover. It ensures fresh perspectives and prevents burnout among the volunteers. And the way they conduct their meetings is just as rigid.
How so?
They use Robert's Rules of Order.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. For those who might not be familiar, that is a standard formal manual of parliamentary procedure. It means you can't just talk over someone because you're really passionate about a topic. There is a strict mechanism for making motions, yielding the floor, casting votes. It creates a highly structured arena for debate, ensuring every voice is heard equitably, regardless of how loud or quiet a person naturally is.
And the governing council doesn't manage everything alone.
Right.
There's an executive committee made up of the chair, vice chair, communication chair, and the OLI director that handles the daily leadership.
Correct.
But what really caught my eye in the 2025 policies document was their issue resolution process. Because again, conflict is inevitable.
Right.
How do they handle a scenario where 2 members fundamentally disagree on how a program is being run and it starts getting heated?
So they have a highly structured escalation process designed specifically to de-escalate drama. Step 1 is attempting to resolve the issue directly with respectful discussion.
Just talking it out.
Just talking it out. But if that fails, it doesn't just evolve into a shouting match in the hallway. Step 2 requires submitting the issue in writing to the responsible OLLI committee.
So it moves from an emotional verbal argument to a documented formal complaint. I feel like that alone probably cools a lot of people down, just having to sit and articulate their problem on paper.
It forces clarity, yes. You have to really think about what you're mad about. The committee will then review it, and they can even call witnesses for background information.
Wait, really? Like a trial?
Yeah, treating it almost like a localized administrative hearing.
Yeah.
And if it's still not resolved at that level, it escalates to the governing council.
Wow.
And here are the 2 most critical rules of that process. First, the governing council's decision is absolute and final. Second, if there is an apparent conflict of interest at any stage, say a committee member is close friends with one of the people arguing.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Yeah, that conflicted member must explicitly recuse themselves.
Really is a localized judicial system.
It functions exactly like one. It acts as a pressure valve, ensuring that passionate debates don't turn into, like, structural fractures that split the entire community. It effectively creates a microcosm of a functional democracy.
And looking at the financial policies, this localized democracy is also deeply concerned with economic inclusivity, which I thought was great.
Yes.
The governing council sets the budget,
Right.
but there is a scholarship subcommittee that actively awards full or partial scholarships for their deluxe membership.
And they do it very systematically.
Right. They don't base this on vague hardship letters or sob stories. They base it on an objective metric income levels up to twice the federal poverty guidelines.
That objective metric is crucial. It removes the stigma or any personal bias from the scholarship process. By actively ensuring that financial barriers are mitigated, they are fulfilling their core mission of creating a truly diverse, multi-generational society. Governance in this context isn't about restricting access, it's about facilitating it.
Which brings up a critical question. What are they actually facilitating? I mean, structure is great, but it exists to serve the learning. Let's look at how the actual curriculum is built.
The engine room of OLLI.
Exactly. Because they don't operate on traditional long academic semesters. They operate on 5 distinct 6-week sessions throughout the year. You've got winter, spring, summer, fall 1, and fall 2.
And that scheduling choice is very intentional for this demographic. They are catering to mature adults who might want to travel, visit family, or who just don't want to be locked into a grueling 16-week academic commitment.
Right, nobody wants to be trapped in a classroom for 4 months if they don't have to.
Exactly. Agile 6-week sprints allow members to dip in and out of the curriculum as their lives permit. And the gatekeeper to all of this content is the curriculum committee.
Okay, here's where I need to push back again.
Go for it.
We know that virtually any member can propose a class to the curriculum committee, and the facilitators are generally just OLLI members themselves. As a thank you for teaching, OLLI gives them vouchers for a partial membership payment or a free class.
Which is a nice perk.
It is. And if a non-member wants to facilitate, they need an OLLI co-facilitator or a mentor. But wait, if any member can pitch a class, how do they maintain any semblance of academic quality?
That is the big question.
Right, like what stops someone from pitching a 6-week course on a fringe conspiracy theory, or just using the classroom as a soapbox for their personal grievances?
This raises an important point about the balance between intellectual freedom and institutional integrity. The curriculum committee does not operate as a rubber stamp, but they also don't operate as, like, draconian censors.
Okay.
They have a tiered response system. When someone proposes a class, especially first-time facilitators or experienced ones trying a completely new topic, they have to present their proposal in person.
Oh, so it's essentially a pitch meeting. You have to stand in front of the committee and prove your concept.
Exactly. And the committee's response options are really nuanced. They can approve the class as proposed, sure, but they can also approve it with minor required changes, or they can assign an experienced mentor to help the facilitator structure the syllabus.
Okay, that's cool.
They can also request major changes for a future resubmission, or reject it entirely if it violates their guidelines.
So it's an active mentorship model. If
Oh.
you have a scattered idea, they're going to help you focus it to fit the OLI standard rather than just shutting you down immediately.
Yes, they want the members to succeed, but they are fiercely protective of the classroom environment, especially when it comes to controversial topics.
I found that section of the document fascinating.
It's very explicit. The policy guidelines state that classes addressing controversial issues need to ensure that all sides of the issue are presented.
Right. The guidelines clarify that biased material can be used, but only as subject matter to be studied, not as a tool for indoctrination.
Precisely.
So basically, you can teach a class analyzing how political propaganda is constructed, but you cannot use the class to distribute your own political propaganda.
Exactly. The distinction between analysis and advocacy is the absolute bedrock of their academic policy. Discussion and rigorous debate are highly encouraged, but it is bounded by a strict code of behavior. Personal attacks are explicitly forbidden.
Makes sense.
Participants are required to respect the dignity of others across religious, political, ethical, and social beliefs.
So if a facilitator suddenly starts targeting a specific group or using defamatory language during a lecture, what happens? Do they just shut it down?
The curriculum committee reserves the right to terminate a class for noncompliance with those policies. All participants must be sensitive to stereotypes and avoid anything defamatory, discriminatory, or degrading.
Wow.
So to answer your earlier question, the intellectual freedom at OLI is vast, but it is heavily guarded by a mandate for respect, objectivity, and peer review.
Okay, so they've figured out how to moderate the content, mentor the facilitators, and keep the peace inside the classroom. But how do you prevent that community from fracturing when those 6-week sprints end? Because the learning at OLI clearly doesn't stop when you walk out of the classroom. The organization seems hyper-focused on real-world community building.
This is where the social interaction mandate of their mission statement really comes to life. Combating the loneliness epidemic among mature adults is just as important to the OLI framework as the academic learning itself.
Yeah.
And one way they achieve this is through special interest groups, or SIGs.
Right. These are groups of members who share a common interest. Maybe it's a hiking club, a photography group, or a book club, and they meet regularly outside the standard classroom environment.
Yes.
But true to the OLI framework, it's not totally unstructured, is it?
No, not at all. The governance extends even to the social clubs. Each special interest group must have a designated coordinator, and that coordinator is required to verify every 6 months that all participants...
Right, every 6 months.
Yeah, every 6 months. They have to verify that everyone in the group is actually a current dues-paying OLE member.
So what does this all mean? Why be so strict about checking memberships for, like, a hiking group?
Because they are actively maintaining the integrity of that peer-directed bubble.
Ah.
Think about it. The resources, the insurance, the administrative support from Yavapai College, all of that is predicated on the membership structure. If SIGs become open to anyone in the general public, the organizational structure breaks down.
That makes total sense.
Hmm.
And to ensure people actually integrate into that bubble in the first place, they have a dedicated member engagement committee.
Yes, they do.
When I first read about this, I thought it was just, a standard welcoming committee. But it's actually a highly targeted operational strategy to fight isolation.
Oh, they leave very little to chance when it comes to social connection. They deploy new member mentors whose specific job is to reach out to incoming members, answer their questions, and actively connect them to volunteer opportunities.
And they have classroom ambassadors.
I love the ambassadors.
Right. These are volunteers who stand up before a class begins, give a friendly welcome, make administrative announcements, and promote upcoming events. I mean, they're literally operationalizing friendliness.
Exact.
You might sign up for a 6-week course on Renaissance art just because you're bored, but you stay involved because a classroom ambassador learned your name, noticed you were engaged, and personally invited you to join the curriculum committee.
It's brilliant. By tying social events, mentorship, and volunteering directly to the intellectual pursuits, they create a profoundly sticky community. It fulfills the human need for purpose and belonging simultaneously.
And that sense of belonging literally crosses borders.
Yeah.
Because OLLI doesn't just stay in Yavapai County. The ecosystem extends globally through their international travel program.
Oh, the travel program is amazing. The travel committee is a fascinating extension of the curriculum.
Yeah.
They work with contracted educational travel companies to design specific trips for mature adults, entirely based on member surveys and interests.
And they don't just, hand you a brochure and wish you luck. OLLI actually sends their director or a designated volunteer on the trip to travel for free and act as a dedicated liaison and problem solver between the travelers and the touring company.
Which is a huge safety net for the travelers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But the mechanism that really highlights how interconnected this whole organization is the thematic integration before the trip even begins.
Yes, the cross-pollination between the committees.
Exactly. The curriculum committee and the social committee actually coordinate to plan specific classes and programming related to the upcoming trip themes well before departure.
So smart.
It's like getting the director's cut or a backstage pass for your vacation. You aren't just a tourist showing up in a foreign country with a generic guidebook. You have literally been studying the destination's history, politics, and culture with your actual travel mates for 6 weeks before you even pack your bags.
It transforms passive tourism into immersive, experiential education. And if you step back, it perfectly encapsulates the entire OLLI philosophy we've been discussing today.
How so?
Well, you have the structural administrative support of the travel company and the director. You have the rigorous intellectual preparation from the curriculum committee. And you have the peer-to-peer social bonding of experiencing the world with your classmates.
It is a meticulously designed ecosystem.
It really is.
When you look at the entire picture, from the strict, odd-numbered governing council that prevents cliques, to the active mentorship of the curriculum committee that shapes raw ideas into real academic courses, all the way to international travel that builds community, it proves that a peer-directed model isn't just a nice idea.
No.
It can be incredibly robust and self-sustaining.
OLLI at Yavapai College is not just a catalog of continuing education classes. It is a localized democracy. It is a community governed by its own members, funded by its own members, and protected by incredibly clear policies and procedures.
So for you listening right now, whether you are trying to manage a decentralized team at work, participating in a local community board that feels a bit chaotic, or you're just looking for ways to keep your own brain sharp as you navigate different stages of life, the OLLI framework is a masterclass.
Truly.
It shows you exactly how to balance human passion with necessary protocol. You give people real ownership, you provide a clear, objective framework for resolving conflict, and you weave social connection directly into the fabric of the work.
And, returning to your point at the very beginning of our discussion, it really forces you to reconsider the traditional trajectory of education.
The conveyor belt.
Exactly, the conveyor belt. We spend our youth learning primarily so we can earn a living. We acquire skills to satisfy an employer. But looking at the deeply engaged, intellectually vibrant community within the OLLI model, it raises a profound question.
What's that?
What if the ultimate luxury of aging isn't finally getting to retire from work, but finally having the freedom to learn purely for the sake of living?
What a fantastic way to frame it. The conveyor belt stops, you step off, and the real deep dive begins. Thanks for learning with us today.